Hey everybody, what's up? It's me, Robin. Today's video is about Autodesk's 3ds Max and Maya, the differences between these two very similar seeming programs and which one is better suited for your purposes. A lot of people wonder why Autodesk would make two applications that seem like they're just twins. But in actuality, once you really get to know them, you see how different they really are. Maya, you always have the best jokes and you're always the life of the party. And you, 3ds Max, you're so great at telling stories and you always make people feel comfortable with you. And of course, they are still the most commonly used apps in the animation and 3D graphics industry. They really are just like hot twins. They're always popular. Both can be used for everything in the 3D pipeline: modeling, texturing, rigging, animation, particle simulations, dynamics, rendering, camera tracking, everything you need for 3D animation, graphics production, media and entertainment. Speaking of entertainment, this video is sponsored by Modena Media and Entertainment, who provide content creation and production solutions to the media and entertainment industry. Join the community, submit your work, and sign up for their webinars at www.modename.co.za. And at the end of this video, I'll also be letting you know how you can enter to win tickets for the Cape Town International Animation Festival this year, and also how you can submit your work to the worldwide Autodesk area community for possible inclusion into their gallery and showreels. So make sure you keep watching to find out about that. And also download the trials for 3ds Max and Maya so you can play around with them yourself. The link will be in the description of this video. So let's look at system requirements and price for 3ds Max and Maya. Both are currently $1,620 per year or $205 per month. In terms of CPUs, 3ds Max needs a 64-bit Intel or AMD multi-core processor and is for Windows users. Although you can install Max on a Mac with Boot Camp, they no longer provide support for troubleshooting for Apple Mac. Maya, on the other hand, also requires a 64-bit Intel or AMD multi-core processor, and it's also supported for Apple Macs with an M-series chip under Rosetta 2 mode, and you can also use it on Linux. 3ds Max requires a minimum of 4 gigs of RAM, but 8 gigs is recommended. And Maya requires a minimum of 8 gigs of RAM, but 16 or more are recommended. To install 3ds Max, you need at least 9 gigs of free disk space, and to install Maya, you need at least 4 gigs. So let's look at the interfaces. 3ds Max has a pretty friendly looking interface. You've got your modeling tools and you've got these dope modifiers that can really help in the process. A lot of people seem to find 3ds Max less intimidating than Maya. Maya is a little more complex, I think. It's got a lot going on when you first open it. The tool shelves are pretty chock-a-block, so visually it can be a little overwhelming. And a lot of the time you don't use a lot of these tools, but I think it's subjective. So maybe that's why when I went from Maya to Max, I didn't find it that difficult because I started in this supposedly more complicated program. I don't know, but it might have been a different story going from Max to Maya. If you learned a different program and then you had to move into Maya, let me know what that experience was like for you in the comments. Okay, in terms of modeling, you can do pretty much the same things in both. Both have great modeling tools, and Max has these modifiers, which I actually got frustrated with at first when I was still new to it, because I wasn't used to them having come from Maya. But I love them now. The way you work with them and stack them makes the workflow really nice and simple. 3ds Max is actually the preferred app for modeling precisely because of these modifiers. And it is more widely used in ArchViz, product design, engineering, construction, manufacturing, and also game design, because it's just a lot easier to model stuff, especially when it comes to hard surface modeling. Maya is considered less user-friendly when it comes to modeling. Some of the tools are a little more complicated to use, and it doesn't have as much stuff making the process easier the way Max does with the modifiers. So, if you are looking to get into one of the industries that I just mentioned, like ArchViz or interior design or construction or engineering, that sort of stuff, then 3ds Max is probably the best app for you to use in this case. But there are still animation companies that use 3ds Max for animation and games, which is why I also had to move to 3ds Max after I'd already learned Maya, because the studio that I was working for used 3ds Max, and that was for animation. So talking of animation, let's look at the ease of animation in each of these apps. Maya is more commonly used for animation-heavy projects because it has a better toolset for keyframing and curves, and the workflow is a bit easier, which is why it's the industry standard for films and TV. Maya is definitely hands down the favorite when it comes to actual animation. That's not to say you can't animate nicely in 3ds Max, obviously you can, it's just that Maya is a little bit better set up for it. In Maya you also get greater flexibility and opportunity for customizing with Mel and Python. So if the work you're doing is very animation heavy, then your best bet is probably Maya. So let's take a look at the materials and the texturing now. Max has an easier, simpler material and rendering setup, and it uses the material editor. There are two modes for the material editor, which is the slate mode and the compact mode. The slate material editor uses nodes and gives you more freedom with your materials and settings, while the compact is for convenience when you just want to apply already designed materials that don't need to be fine-tuned that much. And this is really great when you're doing architectural visualizations or product designs and stuff like that, because there are these really great presets. Maya uses the Hypershade, and it's pretty different from the Slate Material Editor and the Compact Editor in 3ds Max. Maya is a little more technical in some cases with the shader network construction. Although it does have some sick presets, it's not set up to use as easily as 3ds Max. So let's take a look now at particle simulations and dynamics. Maya has Bifrost, which is this really awesome visual programming environment which enables you to create really dope effects pretty easily. So fire, smoke, snow, explosions. I'm sure some of you would have seen this video from Autodesk already, showing what it can do. It's got physically based solvers like aerodynamics and combustion, and if you're making effects like smoke or fire, you can even choose the fuel like methane or butane. So it's really cool and it's pretty easy to use. 3ds Max has Particle Flow, which is an event-driven particle system. They also have a non-event driven system, which basically just means that the particles are not driven by any events, so they just stay consistent throughout. Now, Particle Flow is cool for things like water fountains and explosions, and it's fine for fire and stuff like that, but it's not like Bifrost. So if you do a lot of work with particles and simulations and stuff like that, then you might want to consider looking at Maya because it has the Bifrost extension. So let's look at rigging. A lot of people find it a bit more difficult to rig in Maya because it is a little more technical, and it's really beneficial for you to have knowledge in MEL so that you can create really complex rigs. But that's also the beauty of it, because if you know what you're doing, you can create some really fire rigs. That's the thing with Maya, you can do so much with the rigs and you can make them really versatile. 3ds Max, on the other hand, is a little more limited in the rigging department. I mean, you can still create really nice rigs, but you don't have as much flexibility for customization as you do with Maya. So if you're really into rigging, if you are a rigger or you want to become a rigger, then it's probably better for you to get stuck into Maya because there's a lot more room for flexibility and customization there. So basically, in a nutshell, as you've probably seen by now, 3ds Max is used more for 3D design. So if that's the industry you want to go into, so architectural visualization, game design, product design, construction, engineering, that sort of thing, then 3ds Max is your best bet. On the other hand, if you're really into character animation and you want to work in the animation specific industry, like if you want to work in film, TV series, game animation, then Maya is your best bet. 3ds Max has a more efficient modeling workflow and easier to use textures, while Maya is better for animation and rigging. But you know, why don't you just trial both of them and see which one you prefer? Like I said before, there is a link in the description of this video where you can go and download those free trials for both 3ds Max and Maya, and a bunch of other Autodesk products too, if that tickles your fancy. And you can just take a look at them and see what they're like, and maybe just get used to both of them, because if you want to work in this industry, it's just in your best interests to at least have a basic working knowledge of these apps. But you know, you don't have to marry your software. There are no wrong decisions here. It's more about the artist than the paintbrush, if you know what I mean. I've used 3ds Max, I've used Maya, I've used Blender. There are no wrong answers. You can also submit the work that you create with these trials to the Modena Media and Entertainment Gallery. They're looking for the best animation artwork created with Autodesk software. You can even use the free downloads like Sketchbook, which is totally free. Each month, all submissions will go into a random draw, and the winner will receive 2 tickets to either the virtual or live event of the Cape Town International Animation Festival, which is commencing from April 2021. They're going to be highlighting the best and featuring the artist of the month, and also submitting the work to the worldwide Autodesk area community for possible inclusion into their gallery and show reels. So, you know, I hope this video was helpful for you. I hope it helped you better decide which software would be better for your purposes. Hell, why not just try both? Hit the like button if you did actually like the video. I mean, you can also if you didn't like the video. I'm not gonna complain. I don't really care if you're lying. But if you did like it, then please hit subscribe and hit that little notifications bell so you don't miss out on any other videos that could potentially be very helpful to you in the future. Thanks for watching, guys. Love ya. Bye!